Karen's voice pierced through the morning like shattered glass. "You're under arrest! Cho police! Take him away!" I opened my door to find 3 men in fake uniforms, badges glinting under the porch light. My stomach sank as one of them yanked out handcuffs. Neighbors peeked through blinds. Karen stood with her arms crossed, smirking. "We warned you, rule breaker. Nobody disobeys the HOA." I froze, letting them believe they had the upper hand, until I slowly pulled out my real badge and said, "Funny, because I'm with the FBI. I moved to the edge of the forest because I wanted quiet, not drama." My cabin was a simple wooden structure, stained dark from years of rain, with smoke curling from the stone chimney every morning. Out here, the air felt alive, filled with pine and soil, carrying the chatter of birds instead of car horns. My days were steady, splitting wood, drinking black coffee on the porch, listening to the creek gurgle in the distance. Just a half-mile away, though, sat the HOA neighborhood with its perfect lawns, sterile white fences, and cookie-cutter houses. I thought being outside their jurisdiction meant freedom, that I could watch their little empire from afar without being pulled into it. That illusion broke the day Karen showed up with her clipboard, like it was a sword she was dying to swing. I first saw her when the sun was sliding down between the trees, orange light spilling across the clearing. She marched up my gravel drive in high heels that weren't meant for dirt, blazer blazing red like a warning sign. She didn't knock. She didn't introduce herself. She planted herself on my porch, eyes narrowed, lips pinched so tightly it looked like her mouth might disappear. "This is unacceptable," she barked, waving the clipboard in the air like she was presenting evidence at a trial. "Do you even realize how much property values are dropping because of this?" She swept her hand toward my cabin, my stacked wood, my old muddy truck parked by the shed. I wiped sweat from my forehead, still holding the axe from splitting logs, and answered calmly that my land wasn't part of their HOA. That's when I saw the first crack of rage flash across her face. Karen wasn't alone either. Behind her were Tom and Sandra, the neighborhood's shadows. Tom wore glasses too big for his face, always fidgeting, like he wanted to shrink out of existence, but couldn't. Sandra was the opposite, tall blonde, smiling in that cruel way people do when they enjoy seeing someone else on the defensive. Karen jabbed the clipboard against my chest and declared that everything within 3 miles fell under their visual authority. Smoke from my chimney, piles of cut logs, the muddy wheels of my truck. Apparently all these things were contaminating her sense of order. I laughed, told her it was called living, but her nostrils flared like she'd caught a whiff of something rotten. Sandra smirked. Tom muttered something about rules, and the 3 of them stood there like executioners waiting for me to kneel. I figured they'd blow off steam and leave me alone, but the neighborhood changed overnight. Dalton, my closest neighbor, stopped waving when I drove past, his wife ducking behind curtains when she saw me coming. At the diner in town, I caught whispers when I walked in, conversations dying as soon as I sat down. Then came the graffiti, spray paint scrawled across the side of my truck, in sloppy letters, HO trash. I scrubbed it clean, but the sting of it stayed under my skin. The next evening, as I sat on the porch sipping bitter coffee, headlights appeared at the far end of my drive. Karen again, flanked by Tom and Sandra. They strutted up like they owned the ground, papers in hand and stuffed envelopes into my mailbox. The harassment grew bolder with each passing day, and every morning my mailbox became a theater of absurdity. Slips of paper stamped with fake HOA logos screamed fines at me. $250 for unsightly wood stacks, $500 for excessive smoke emissions, and even $1,000 for failure to integrate with community aesthetic. The words made me laugh at first, but the laughter faded when I realized the neighbors were starting to believe them. I'd see Dalton shake his head when I drove by, mothers pulling their kids closer like I was some threat. Karen wasn't just writing threats, she was poisoning the well, dripping her venom into the minds of everyone around me. Out here, reputation was everything, and she was cutting mine down with surgical precision. I remember sitting in the diner one night, my cap pulled low, hands wrapped around a mug of coffee that had gone cold. The low hum of chatter broke when Sandra's voice rang out, pitched just loud enough for me to hear. He's dangerous, living out there like some criminal in hiding. Karen's doing us a favor by keeping him in check. A couple of men at the counter nodded, one muttering that people like me don't belong. My jaw clenched, but I said nothing. Just listened as lies built walls between me and the town I once called home. When I stood to leave, Sandra smiled at me like she'd won, her lipstick-stained straw dangling from her drink. That walk back to my truck was the longest I'd ever taken, and the word criminal echoed in my head with every step. It didn't stop with gossip. One evening, I heard the hiss of spray paint before I saw the damage. On my cabin wall, in red dripping letters, someone had written HOA rules or else. My blood boiled. I stormed outside and found Karen herself standing there with the can in her hand, unashamed. "Drop it, Karen," I shouted, boots crunching across the gravel as I closed the distance. She didn't even flinch, only tilted her head, eyes gleaming with some twisted satisfaction. "Finally," she sneered. "Maybe now you'll listen. You're lowering property values, destroying our community, and we won't allow it anymore." Her tone wasn't that of a neighbor, it was that of a tyrant. I told her she was trespassing, vandalizing, committing crimes, but she only smirked and said, "The only crime here is you thinking you're above the rules." Her confidence chilled me more than her actions. It wasn't the paint on my walls or the whispers in town that unnerved me. It was the way she truly believed she was untouchable. "We have authority," she said, voice low and steady. "Real authority. You'll see soon enough." That promise stuck to me like sap, impossible to wash off. I watched her retreat into the dark, with Sandra laughing at her side and Tom trailing behind like a loyal dog. My fists ached from how tightly I'd clenched them. Every instinct screaming at me to end this now, to expose her games. But patience was my armor, and I forced myself to stay still. Deep down, though, I knew she was building toward something bigger, something more dangerous than spray paint or gossip. The knock came a week later, heavy and deliberate, shaking the wooden door against its hinges. I opened it to find 3 men dressed in dark uniforms, shiny badges pinned to their chests, boots planted wide like soldiers ready to drag me out. "You're under arrest," one barked, voice cold and rehearsed. Behind them, I saw her, Karen, arms folded, smirk carved deep into her face. "Told you the HOA doesn't play games," she said smugly. My eyes flicked over the uniforms. Patches didn't match. Holsters were empty, their posture was off. They weren't real cops, not even close. They were imposters. And the game had just shifted into something far more dangerous than I'd imagined. The men tightened their grip on my arms. But I let them think they had the upper hand. Their cuffs were cheap, hollow things that clicked shut but didn't bite the way real ones did. Karen stood at the bottom of the steps like a queen overseeing her victory, her red blazer glowing under the pale dawn. Sandra was a few feet back, her grin wide as if she was watching a play, and Tom shuffled nervously, chewing his lip like he already regretted being there. "Get him in the SUV," one of the fake officers ordered, motioning toward the black vehicle idling on the dirt road. My heart pounded, but not from fear. Every second, my hidden body cam kept rolling, capturing every detail of this circus for later. I dug my heels into the gravel and stopped, my voice carrying sharp and steady. "That's far enough." The imposters exchanged glances, thrown off by my sudden resistance. Karen laughed, her sound sharp and cutting. "Oh, so now you're going to fight?" "Too late for that, mountain man." I twisted my wrist, slipped out of the toy cuffs with practiced ease, and reached inside my jacket. In one fluid motion, I flipped open the black leather case, gold letters gleaming in the sunrise. "Federal Bureau of Investigation," I said clearly, letting the words cut through the morning air. The color drained from Tom's face. Sandra's smile froze. And for the first time since this war began, Karen's smirk cracked. She blinked rapidly, shaking her head. "You're lying. This is some kind of trick." I stepped forward, close enough that she could see the seal, the badge, the unmistakable authority she thought she could imitate. "No, Karen. You've crossed the line into impersonating law enforcement, attempted kidnapping, and conspiracy. Everything you've done is on record. One of the fake cops muttered. He's real. We're screwed. Tom actually backed away, whispering, "Oh my God," as though the ground had given way beneath him. Sandra clutched her arm, looking between me and Karen like she suddenly wanted to disappear. The silence after my reveal was thick, broken only by the low rumble of the SUV's engine. I raised my phone slowly, showing the glowing red light of the recording. This has already been transmitted. Headquarters has it all, and backup is en route. Karen's eyes darted to the tree line as if she was calculating escape routes. Her voice rose into a screech. "This is harassment! He's twisting everything! He's the threat here!" Her shrillness only made her look smaller, weaker, stripped of the control she clung to. I met her gaze without flinching. "No, Karen, this is the law." The imposters shifted uneasily, their fake authority crumbling like wet paper. Sandra whispered, "We should go," but Karen barked at her to shut up, her desperation spilling over into rage. Then, faint at first but growing louder, came the sound of sirens. Real sirens, tearing through the quiet forest, closing in fast. The imposters stiffened, panic flashing across their faces. Tom bolted before anyone could stop him, vanishing into the woods, his glasses slipping down his nose as he ran. Sandra tried to crouch behind Karen, as if her towering presence could shield her. But Karen herself stood trembling, caught between screaming defiance and crumbling into dust. "You can't win," she spat, her voice shaking now. "The HOA always wins. We'll come back stronger, you'll see." Her words carried no weight anymore, only the desperation of someone watching their empire collapse. And as the flashing lights of real FBI vehicles cut through the trees, her fate was sealed in the reflection of my cabin windows. So what do you think? Was this the most unhinged HOA stunt you've ever heard of? Do you think Karen was bluffing about coming back stronger? Or is there a bigger conspiracy here? Should I tell you what happened after her arrest? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe if you want the next chapter of this madness.